Hey everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name's Matt. I'm the founder of Elsewhere Pods. We're a company based out of Melbourne, Australia, and yeah, we're a tiny home company, and rolling out ecotourism accommodations and in a kind of modular way. So really excited to have you all join us here. I'm just going to hit share screen. I've got a little presentation for you, and we'll get started. Excellent. So yeah, all right, we'll just jump straight into it. Basically, we'll have a little bit of a Q&A at the end, maybe last 5 minutes or so. So just chuck your questions straight into the chat, and Jamie will be there to pick those up and throw those into the presentation. We'll have a chat about them all at the end. Okay, so basically today what we're going to be talking about is ecotourism as a vehicle to alleviate housing affordability. So really, it's a little bit of a strange concept. Often tourism is related to making housing affordability worse by listings on short stay accommodation platforms. But today we're going to work through our vision of how the tiny home industry can actually empower ecotourism and solve housing affordability at the same time. So we'll go a little bit of a walkthrough of my background at my professional career, Elsewhere Pod's mission, what we're doing in terms of innovating on modular tiny home design and tourism, kind of the issue we'll walk through, a little bit about how that relates to ecotourism and our approach to resolving, and then we'll touch a little bit about Elsewhere Pods, how we're going about it, and then some of the environmental, social, and economic outcomes of that model. So I'll give you a little bit of a, we've got a little bit of a video here. So hopefully that sound's coming through. So as you can see, we're going into really beautiful locations, providing modular solutions for housing. So no sound in the video. No sound? Okay. No good. All right, we'll press on. It's just a bit of music basically. So jump to the next slide. So a little bit about me. I grew up in a town called Byron Bay, which is kind of historically a very popular hippie town, tourism town. It's on the east coast of Australia. And basically, there's been multiple generations of kind of ecotourism industry that's come out of Byron Bay. So there was always going to be kind of that pull for me to want to be involved in that industry. I guess life gets in the way, and you get pulled in multiple directions. And I ended up moving down to Melbourne and studying. Moved into the corporate world and landed myself a profession specializing in international trade law and economics. But I always had that pull of wanting to do something with a bit more impact, in the world. And my mum, around the COVID years, actually lost all of her possessions and her house in a flood. And there's also that housing affordability issue in Byron Bay, as well as a lot of money has moved into the township and pushed the existing residents out. So this felt like the right time to actually jump into the building construction tiny home industry, and try and have a bit more impact than what I was doing day to day. So I got a hold of an architect who I had a relationship with, and got some investors together, and we commercialized Elsewhere Pods as a scalable solution. I'm really passionate about scalable solutions to big problems. And I think that Elsewhere Pods, the system that we've built out, is really well positioned to kind of have an outsized impact in trying to address some of these issues that we're working on. So our team is really diverse in terms of the industries and the backgrounds that they've come from. backgrounds like elite sports analysis, construction, finance, architecture, and design, as well as the tech industry. We think that we've created a really nice blend of skills and experiences. And at the end of the day, we're not a traditional builder. We're taking a very first principles approach to some long-standing problems. So what's Elsewhere Pods trying to do in the world? So we're trying to develop a luxury ecotourism industry, and we're trying to sustainably offset housing affordability pressure. So this goal is rooted in the belief that empowering the ecotourism industry with a dedicated building system will allow us to increase the supply of sustainable housing and therefore alleviate the impact, particularly that tourism has on housing affordability. And the way we're doing this is by designing products that create a really seamless connection between the occupant and the natural environment. So a little bit of a video here, you won't get the sound, but you'll get a little bit of a sense of the kind of structures that we're building in the kinds of locations. There's a lot of flexibility around, okay, is this a home for someone? Is this an accommodation in a short-term accommodation in a beautiful location? It's a very flexible system in that way, a whole range of use cases, but where we've been blessed to be able to roll this out in some of the most beautiful locations in the country. This one is on top of a mountain. So site access, extremely difficult for most tiny home companies, but we're very much blessed in terms of the system that we've designed to be able to get to some really cool locations. So what's the problem in terms of the connection between tourism and housing affordability? The way we see it, well, the way I see it, because of my kind of economics background, it's a statistical problem, and it's a supply and demand problem. So over 4% of Australia's property market is actually listed on Airbnb right now. And there are more full house Airbnb listings in Melbourne than there are long-term rental properties in that city. So this is kind of indicative of how quickly things have moved. 16,000 full house listings on Airbnb versus 11,000 long-term leases. This is a really big problem. Of course, there are benefits to creating income streams for families with a second home and investors. There are positives to that, but also you don't want that to be at the expense of the people looking to buy or rent long-term. So the impact that tourism in particular is having is that particularly in regional and coastal towns where it's already really difficult to house workers, what you're doing by adding or taking out properties off the long-term market and using them for Airbnb is it's just a supply and demand issue. You're just sucking supply out of the market. And whilst we love people getting out of the cities and into regional areas, we don't want that to be at the expense of families. A property owner can make 2 to 3 times what they're making on long-term rental on these short-term platforms. So it's a really strong incentive for investors, property owners to undertake this, and you can't really blame them for that. So what's government's reaction? They're placing bans in Australia on how many days of the year you can have a short stay accommodation. They're taxing the incomes of those hosts who are doing the short stay, and they're adding a bunch of regulation and red tape, which in our mind is just not a good solution, particularly when we're trying to encourage Australians to get out of the cities and see the country. We don't want to actually stop that side of tourism. We think it's a really good thing for the country, but at the same time, you don't want to be stuffing up your supply and demand when it comes to housing. So our belief is we're firmly of the belief that if you create dedicated ecotourism accommodations, particularly focused in regional and high tourism areas, what you actually do is increase the supply of housing overall in those areas, meaning that the traditional homes are no longer being sucked out of the market by short stay, and they're actually able to come back into the market as long-term rental accommodations. So we're providing a better solution for property owners and investors to actually go, okay, well, we're still going to capitalize off our property and we're still going to empower the ecotourism industry. We're going to do it in a very sustainable way, and we're not going to do it at the expense of the broader community. So we believe that ecotourism is a big part of that solution. Now, in Australia and around the world, there are vast amounts of regional land that are just absolutely beautiful and stunning, and we want to get people out into those locations. In the kind of post-COVID world, there was a trend in Australia called Holiday Here, and it's about seeing your own backyard before you go around the world to see other places. But the real issue is that there's no kind of really highly scalable building solution, small footprint sustainable building solution that can actually be used to empower this industry. How do you get out to these really regional locations in a profitable way? We believe that ecotourism is the right solution here, because whilst traditional camping is quite popular in Australia, it's not mass market. People in the cities these days, and young families, city dwellers, are not super comfortable going out into the bush and sharing toilets at best case, or using holes in the ground and these kinds of things. And we think that to get to the mass market, you really need to make something that's quite beautiful, quite Instagrammable, quite sexy, to create a really kind of wholesome experience where you're connecting really closely with nature, but you're not missing out on any of those luxuries. We want our guests to come back from their holidays in our pods not being, worn down by dealing with weather and all of these challenges that come with camping and even glamping, but actually come back really refreshed and take those learnings about sustainable living into their day-to-day lives. So as an industry, how do we capitalize on this? We do this by, I guess, making the most of these macro trends that are playing out. So as builders, we need to increase the sustainability. There's obviously increasing global awareness about sustainable solutions, whether it's building or any other industry, the travel industry more broadly. So we need to make our tiny homes cater for that really eco-conscious consumer and make sure that we have, an eco-first solution in whatever we're doing. So we need to ride the front of this wave as an industry, and we need to champion this. We need to empower ecotourism. So we can't be scared of tourism. We've got to lean into it. Travelers are seeking, natural experiences. They want to immerse themselves in the environment, but, by the same token, they do want that level of comfort. So we need to provide something that caters both an environmental and a comfort. We need to innovate on affordability. Now, this comes kind of links into scalable, but it also means that we need to be really smart about how we're innovating in the industry and not just doing the same things that have always been done. So we need to make it sexy. It's got to be Instagram worthy. We've got to create unique travel experiences, and we've got to make sure that we're providing really authentic experiences for people that they can go and share with their friends. We also need to be eco-first. The designs themselves in terms of energy efficiency and resource minimization, and that goes all the way along the supply chain with that chain of custody. Where are your materials coming from? How much resource has gone into it, and making sure that there's very little waste in the whole process. We need to make sure that we're partnering. So we've got to be a team in this industry. It's a large and growing industry. There's enough room for all players, and we need to just make sure that we're streamlining our operations and supporting each other in this industry and finding really important and powerful partnerships to accelerate growth. And we need to enable new business models. So tiny homes as an industry offer revenue diversification. We need to empower landowners, not kind of begrudge them. And we need to make sure that we're having touch points with agriculture by using agritourism and tapping into new markets, whether they're creating stays on wineries, providing a luxury version of caravan park. There's a whole host of different options that we can touch on. And then we got to be scalable. So if we want to have a big impact in the world, then we need a solution that can actually be scaled throughout the world. We can't just be operating in a little dome of, we operate on the east coast of Australia, or we operate in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. You've got to build a system that can go anywhere at any time. So what differentiates us? Okay, so we've got a really flexible and scalable model. The fact that our panels are totally modular, what we actually do with our design is we fabricate the materials in our factory. We do a full test assembly in the factory, flat pack it all down like IKEA furniture, and send those materials direct to our customer site, where we can build a pod in as little as 3, 4, 5 days, or up to 9 days for some of our really larger, more expansive designs. But it's a very flexible and scalable solution. There's almost unlimited customization that you can do by swapping any given panel. The flat pack solution obviously allows us to get into really difficult to reach sites. We can install pods at the top of mountains, steep blocks, just getting into locations that are really tough for full finished products landing on site. And then we can scale our system globally. Flat packing it, sending it out, building out a DIY solution for people, getting into some of those really hard to reach places and providing solutions for them as well. Now, because our products are designed to be National Construction Code compliant, we can actually handle building permits as well. So traditionally, tiny houses have come into the market by not being compliant all of the time. So we've actually got a system that you don't even need to put it on wheels. You can, obviously, if you've got overlays that make it too tricky, but we can handle building permits, and we can design a solution that's permittable. And we've got finance and leasing options. We came into this industry knowing how hard finance was to get in tiny homes. So what we've actually done is we've partnered with a finance provider, and we've also got lease to buy options for our non-building permit jobs. And then obviously our products are very visually striking and all about a very modern and minimalist design aesthetic. Everything that you need and nothing that you don't. So here's a little bit about our kind of flat pack solution. I've kind of given a little bit of an overview of what this looks like already. We've got plenty more information online about this, so we'll skip through there. But what I wanted to show you guys is a little bit of our customer design journey. So the way we handle things with our customers is we get them into an inspection. They get to have a look, touch, and feel a pod and feel the quality. And then we jump into a design meeting where we draw up virtually all of our designs, and we cater our designs to the customer's use case. And then by the end of the meeting or shortly thereafter, we're able to render up a visualization of what the pod will look like. So here's a little bit of an example that our architectural designer threw together for a pod that we had designed for a customer. This one's a 10 meter by 4.8 meter. It's got our standard kitchen selections. It's a reasonably standard, but a larger size pod for us. So as you can see, all of these panels are kind of swappable. You can do things like bifold windows, half solid panel, half window panel. It's a really modular, flexible solution. So what traction are we having? And I guess it's a sign that the industry as a whole is moving really quickly. But we had our commercial launch in October 2022. And since then, we've grown really quickly. Within a month of our commercial launch, we won the Airbnb's global design competition called the Oh My God Fund. And we've now actually partnered with Airbnb to produce this structure that you can see on the right there in partnership with them. So they're providing us with some finances to actually support that project. We've been featured on Architecture AU, which is Australia's most popular design magazine. We've been featured on a couple of TV shows, Going Off Grid, for example, and a whole bunch of podcasts as well. So we're getting a lot of traction. It's kind of a good proof of concept for us. So Q&A time. So we'll grab a couple of these questions. Thanks for putting those in. Feel free to add more as we go along here. We do have another 8 minutes to go. But in the meantime, you can also scan this QR code to check out our brochure. We've got a whole bunch of information about our system. We're very open and transparent about how we operate. We think that, we do things very differently, and we want to be a great example for the industry about how things can be done. So please feel free to jump on there and scan that at any time. But I'll just jump into the first question. So Olinka, hope I've got the pronunciation right there. What an awesome space we're in. Okay, is that a Zoom backdrop? No, so this backdrop that I'm actually in is a recent installation that we actually did. So this is that one in the video that's on top of a mountain. We like to do our meetings with a little bit of a backdrop just to give it a flavor of what we can do and make our clients in particular feel like, they're already part of the space and kind of visualize themselves in the space. But yeah, no, this is a real elsewhere pod that I'm sitting in right now. Virtually, let's say. Annie, how is the financing structured on these modular scalable units? Traditional, innovative, how for en masse? Great question. So we've partnered with a finance company to resource our customers. Basically, they specialize in tiny homes. So they walk the customer through the process, and they also educate the banks, the lenders, on how to structure tiny home financing. They're the first in Australia that's actually able to do this. I'm not sure about in the US how they're managing things. But this is a more recent development for us. Before that, we actually started with our leasing. So we've got 2 clients already who've jumped on our leasing model where they're leasing the pod for a fixed term. They basically pay a 15% deposit upfront and then make monthly repayments. And then we're able to, give them a buyout option at the end of that set lease period. Deb, I'm not clear how these luxury pods relate to housing affordability. Can someone explain? So basically, by providing a product that is the idea of it is to create a dedicated ecotourism accommodation. People who are going on holidays and engaging with tourism, they're not going into traditional houses anymore. They're going into our elsewhere pods as a luxury experience. It's a preferable experience getting into nature in a luxury way. So what that means, it's a supply and demand thing. So what that means is the house that they would have otherwise stayed in is now free and available. And when you introduce additional supply of a beautiful product into the market, you're actually freeing up traditional homes for families to live in. So by freeing up homes for families to live in, the prices of those rentals will come down because of supply and demand. And then the housing market as a whole becomes more affordable. So not only are we directly addressing housing affordability by providing really affordable homes for people, but we're actually indirectly also empowering that, alleviating housing affordability through ecotourism as well. Annie, what are the baseline price points? So we're talking about small, medium, large units. So basically our prices for a kind of a backyard studio that is a livable space with a bathroom and a kitchen starts at about $60,000 Australian plus GST. And because it's modular and can just be built up bigger and bigger and bigger, there's kind of no ceiling on how crazy you can get with the designs. But yeah, our flagship, which is kind of an 8-meter or a 10-meter tiny home by 2.4 meters, like the one pictured here is an 8-meter. These start from around about the $90,000 to $110,000 plus GST in Australian dollars. Adam, could you go over how utilities work for off-grid? Great question. So we've partnered with a lot of great names in the industry to provide full off-grid packages. So we can plug and play any solution. Essentially, we can add on solar panels, batteries, compost toilets, incineration toilets, grey water systems. All of your favorite off-grid stuff can integrate with our pods. Weather extremes, yeah. So and colder climates, our pods, surprisingly enough, actually perform better in cold climates than they do in the warmer climates. And this is by virtue of the super high quality glass that we use. As standard, it's double glazed, it's thermally broken. It's much, much higher than Australian standards. And the reason we've done that is because we've designed this from the ground up to kind of be exactly fit for this purpose. Cold climates are great, warm climates fine, but we'll probably go to triple glazed glass or something like that, or tweak the design a little bit. Annie, Disaster tolerance. Okay. Anti-theft is a tricky one. I think anyone who's can steal one of these pods, power to them, good on them. They deserve it because it'd be bloody hard to do, crane them, lift them up and take them away. There are a lot of things that you can do just with general trailers for those that are on trailers to I guess secure them, wheel clamps and those kinds of things. There's a whole bunch you can do there. In terms of disaster tolerance, our system can integrate with a traditional footing or any other kind of footing. So you can just bolt it in there, and basically, when we do so in a traditional footing, we actually can be rated to like cyclone levels and those kinds of things. So it's a titanium magnesium alloy structure, which is super strong and super lightweight. And we've got a structural engineer who has a PhD in stress testing modular designs, who we work with, and who's helped us develop the system. Base footprint sizes. I recommend, just because we're running out of time, go to the brochure. We've got all of our products and all of our options listed there. So please jump onto our website, which is elsewherepods.com, or download that brochure. And do we have any projects for investors? Great question. We've got a model that we're rolling out very shortly, which is joint ventures with property owners. And yeah, again, that leasing model works really well for investors, where they can just use the repayments as an operational expense for their business and just run. It's like when you buy an Elsewhere pod, you're buying your business in a box. You can just run an accommodation from day one. And always happy to speak with investors. We do have venture capital backing for our business, but definitely happy to discuss any opportunities to collaborate. As we said, we're highly interested in scaling this as a solution and engaging, with the mass market. I think that's just about it for the questions, and we're right on time as well. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's joined. Really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing. And for those of you in New Zealand, we're going to be over there very soon. We're going to be entering that market very shortly. And then right behind that, we'll be working into the US. So 2024 is going to be a really big year for us. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and keep an eye on us. Thank you.